We've all had those really good experiences where you have this role-playing experience and afterwards there's almost like this stunned silence at the table. You immerse yourself so fully in the conversation and in the game that when it's done, it's almost jarring to come out of it. And to be honest, that's part of why we get into D&D. We do it for the immersion, for the full transportation experience to being somewhere and someone else. And how do we do this more often? That's exactly what I want to talk about today. Welcome back to How to Be a Better DM. My name is Justin Lewis, and I'm your host. And this is a bonus episode. And just like all of our episodes, we're here to help you be a better dungeon master without the extra hassle, the extra time, the extra money that you might think. And as I said, today we're going to talk about how to give more to your role-playing. And this is a bonus episode, so it's going to be a little bit less edited than our usual episodes, and it's going to be a little bit quicker, but hopefully you like it all the same. So tip number 1 is to be more vulnerable. I think in a lot of social situations, we can kind of hold ourselves back. We can leave something in the tank. We can avoid putting ourselves fully out there. And we do this obviously so that way we don't get hurt all the time, right? When you go to the store and you say hello to the person bagging your groceries, you don't tell them everything about your life. In most cases, you tell them very, very little. In a role-playing session, you need to be vulnerable. And that doesn't mean you tell them about your life, but it means that you are willing to experience the emotions that your characters feel, that maybe you in real life might feel deep down, but have not let them out. In this way, actually, D&D can be quite therapeutic, and a lot of therapists out there actually use role-playing games like this and role-playing in general to help people overcome and deal with things that they're struggling with. So be willing to be vulnerable. This is one that is kind of a reminder to myself more than anything. It's that, if you're feeling these emotions in your real life, you can let them out in the game. That's kind of why we play D&D in one way, is to be able to deal with things in real life. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is to try things that might not work out, right? This goes so far even to the use of idioms. It goes to the use of accents. This goes to insulting your characters in certain ways, trying to be witty, making up clever jokes. Allow yourself to make mistakes with the role-playing for the sake of better role-play. Because guess what? Role-playing is a skill. It's going to take time to develop. And if you don't give yourself time to fail, you're never going to give yourself time to succeed. So that's number 2. Try things that might not work out. Number 3 is think about your players altruistically. This harkens back to our episode with the Taylor Salmon. Gosh, why did I forget his name? Taylor Salmon from our episode with Comedy Sports. And he talks about being extremely altruistic with your players, thinking about them, caring about them, and what they want from the game. When you roleplay, it helps to think more about the experience your players are having rather than how you feel, any discomfort you have or insecurities, and think about ways to make their experience better. Because when you do that, you will be more willing to be vulnerable. You'll be more willing to try things out. You'll be more willing to make mistakes and do things that don't necessarily sound production quality, right? If you think about your players, you'll be more willing to do whatever it takes to help them have a good time, which will help you have a good time. Number 4 is to forget, Number 4 is to forget yourself. Also, fun fact about me, I have a tremendous yawning problem. You probably don't know this listening to the normal episodes of the podcast, but I have a terrible, terrible yawning problem. And that means that when I edit shows, it takes me a really long time. So this is a little bit of letting you behind the curtain. If you don't like the yawning, just let me know. I only yawned once so far in this episode. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, whatever, right? Anyways, number 4, coincidentally, is forget yourself. Sorry, I was talking about myself for so long there. But when you play, one of the reasons why you can not be as immersed, or you can sort of be pulled out of immersion, is by remembering who you are and yourself and your weaknesses, and sort of letting that dwell on your mind. Don't do that. Let yourself forget who Justin is for the time being and simply just think about the character you're playing, Saban, or Jolly, if you listen to the Pact and Boon. Just let yourself actually be transported to a fully fantastical realm. And I know that it might feel like you're playing pretend. In a way, you are. But that's okay. Dang it, that's 2. We play pretend all the time. Whenever we write goals, we pretend to imagine a world where this future state exists, and then we devise a plan to make that future state reality. The only difference with playing an RPG is that we don't necessarily make a plan to make dragons real. But if you can forget yourself and just don't worry about your own weaknesses, your own insecurities, role-playing becomes a lot more easier, because without you, what's left is the character, right? Once the player is kind of gone, the character is really all that's left. And the nice thing about forgetting about yourself is that it allows you to also think about your players more altruistically, which allows you to be more vulnerable and try things out. So all of these really come together to help you in your D&D game. Wouldn't it be nice to gamify your Dungeon Master abilities? In D&D, characters can reach level 20, so why can't Dungeon Masters? We're happy to tell you that now you can. We created the Dungeon Master Level Up Guide for you. It's a simple tool to gamify your progression to higher and higher levels of Dungeon Mastery. It includes Dungeon Master levels 1 to 20 with associated XP requirements, as well as a long list of Dungeon Master activities that will give you XP to get you to level 20. Each activity has a challenge rating and an XP amount. In order to level up, all you need to do is find out how much XP you currently have, find out how much you need, and then pick activities to get you there. You can get the Dungeon Master Level Up Guide for free by going to sessionzerostudios.com/newsletter. Sign up for our newsletter once you get there, and we'll email you the Level Up Guide in the first email. Finally, leveling up as a DM can be as fun as leveling up a character. As a listener of this show, you obviously love story. Now that you've had a chance to craft your own story by listening to this show, wouldn't it be nice to get some inspiration? Or maybe you just want a moment of immersion and escape and entertainment. Whatever it is, come join us on our new show, Pact and Boon. It's an actual play D&D podcast in the world of Calignos, where our characters, Jolly, Wolfgang, and Alan, will find and meet each other in hell, and from there, start a troublemaking journey with some near-death experiences that will hopefully lead them to a happy ending. Find it wherever great podcasts are heard, or just go to sessionzerostudios.com/pact and boon. That's PACTNBOON. Start listening today. Number 5 is to try some real-life improv classes or exercises. Obviously, if comedy sports or something like it is available in your area, you can absolutely try that. But there are many, many different... Dang it, that's 3. I feel like if I reach a certain threshold, I should owe you guys like another episode or something. Maybe we'll do that. Or maybe we'll add that to our future Patreon or whatever. But number 5 is to try some real-life improv classes, as I said. On one of the previous podcasts that I've been on as a guest, they did a couple of really fun improv exercises. And one is called Where Have My Fingers Been?, where it's essentially... you have 2 fingers, right? One on your right hand, one on your left hand, usually your index finger, and they talk to each other, right? And you personify them as different characters, and you essentially create a story. And the story is quick, but it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? So you can start off with one finger saying, "Hey, I see you have a new cat there. Oh, this old thing? Yeah, where'd you get that? Well, I kind of found it on the side of the road." "Really? You know that cat is foaming at the mouth." "Oh, is that what that is? Yeah, you should get that checked out." So what if it bit me? I'm just going to walk away, okay? I'll see you later." See, that's kind of a stupid example of Where Have My Fingers Been? It's a story with a beginning, middle, and an end. The story doesn't necessarily have to be good, which in this case it wasn't, but it gets your mind thinking of stories, right? And being able to role play and kind of get into character at the drop of a hat. Another exercise we did on that show was 10 things, okay? Shoot, that's 4. I hope you guys aren't counting these. And 10 things is a great exercise where someone gives you a prompt where you have to come up with 10 things that fit a certain parameter, right? And the goal of the game is to be quick and not necessarily accurate. So one example might be 10 things that you could find inside your shoe, okay? So 1 would be a sock. 2 would be a spider. 3, a mouse. 4, toenails. 5, Play-Doh if you have kids in your house. 6, another shoe, which would be pretty insane. 7, someone's foot. 8, a shoelace. 9, a rolled up piece of trash. And 10, one of those shoehorn things that you use to keep your shoe, the shape of the shoe, if it's a nice shoe. So that's 10 things. Again, this isn't so much of an exercise to do accuracy as it is speed. And what these both do is they help you think on your feet. And role-playing is a lot of thinking on your feet, right? So, for example, in one of my games that I play in as a player, my character, his name is Votir, and he's a monk, and I wrote as one of his sort of personality traits that he constantly quotes, like, Psalms, right? Or what's the word? Not Psalms. Proverbs, that's the word. He constantly quotes Proverbs, or often he quotes them wrong, right? Not completely right. But this means that I had to come up with Proverbs, or Proverbs that would work in his culture, that would fit any given situation. So one example of our previous session was, I said, the blade that cuts the hand can cut the grass, right? Or cut the wheat, kind of the idea of, you know, just because something is good or bad doesn't mean that the person using it is good or bad, or doing that action is good or bad, right? One action doesn't define the character of one character. And it really fit the situation because it was kind of a tense, confrontational situation. But I was only able to do that because I was thinking quick on my feet. And honestly, as a player, it's a little bit easier because you don't necessarily have to fill in all the blanks, if that makes sense. So with that said, number 5 is try some real-life improv classes or exercises. Number 6 is practice your acting/public speaking. Now, one very awesome resource for this is an organization called Toastmasters. I was actually in Toastmasters for a long time, and it's a public speaking club, essentially. And you don't need to do Toastmasters to do this. You can practice this in your daily life. But step one is make your sentences concise. Don't add in filler words like but, so, kinda, like, things like that. But more than that, make each sentence, each word earn its existence. Make sure that everything you say has impact and power and gravitas. Another great example to listen to would be the character of Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He speaks very deliberately. And another point in public speaking and acting is your train of thought, leading one idea to the next. And all of these are great things to use in being a dungeon master. I've had people tell me that some of their struggles are describing a scene and not really making it a complete scene with a focal point and things that you want your characters to pay attention to, and they sort of struggle being able to paint the picture in a concise but useful and informational way. Now, public speaking isn't for everyone, obviously. That said, I do think at its root, its base skill is that of communication and being able to formulate and communicate ideas effectively, which is the base root skill of being a dungeon master and honestly everything else in your life. If you want to improve your life significantly, learn how to write your ideas and learn how to communicate your ideas. I guess I'd say learn how to communicate your ideas, which branches into writing your ideas and saying your ideas, talking your ideas. As far as acting goes, I think that falls naturally into role-playing. You learn how to inflect your voice. You learn how to modulate your speed or tone so that way you can portray different characters even with the same voice. If you've ever listened to a voice actor, actually a great voice actor, I've been listening to the Homeland book by R.A. Salvatore, narrated by Victor Bavine, who we've had on this podcast. And in that book, he uses accents fairly rarely. What changes more is the gravel in his voice or the tone or the depth, and you can very well perceive different characters. But more than that, you perceive the emotions behind the characters. And that is really what we care about when you do acting. And honestly, public speaking does the same thing because they teach you how to do pauses. They teach you how to add emphasis, and they teach you how to speed up or slow down your voice to impact the emotions of your audience. And that's exactly what you do as a dungeon master. So to sum it all up, here are 6 tips to make your role-playing just that much better as a dungeon master. Number 1 is be vulnerable. Number 2 is to try things that may or may not work. Number 3 is to think about your players altruistically. And number 4 is forget yourself. Number 5 is to try some real-life improv classes or exercises. And number 6 is to practice your acting/public speaking with clubs, organizations, or exercises. You can find all of that online for sure. And maybe we'll do a future episode on some public speaking exercises to do that anyone can do by themselves or in front of other people. I know that there are sessions where I wish I would have given just a little bit more in my role-playing. The fact of the matter is role-playing is a skill. It's acting, it's communicating, it's public speaking, it's all of it. Thinking on your feet, improv. And you only develop all of that by practice. With these tips, you can practice a little bit more effectively every single session. So that way, 2 sessions from now, 10 sessions, 100 sessions, you can effectively look back and remember how far you've come and know the steps you've taken and know the steps you need to take to become even better. Thank you for listening to this bonus episode of How to Be a Better DM. We'll be back next time with less yawns and another handcrafted episode just for you. But until then, let's go ahead and roll initiative. Brought to you by Session Zero Studios. For more information, visit sessionzerostudios.com.